3 days before Thanksgiving, I realized my entire family had quietly decided I wasn't welcome anymore, and the way I found out felt like someone slowly pulling the floor out from under me. I was lying on my couch, scrolling through Instagram, when my cousin posted a screenshot of our family group chat with the caption, "Can't wait for Thanksgiving with everyone this year." At first I smiled because Thanksgiving had always been my favorite holiday, but then something strange caught my eye. My name wasn't in the group chat member list. I thought it was just a mistake, so I opened my phone to check the original family chat we'd used for years. It was gone completely. No notifications, no messages, nothing. Someone had removed me. If you enjoy real Reddit revenge stories like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button right now, because what happened next completely changed how I see family and trust. Stories like this remind people that sometimes the quietest revenge is the most powerful one. My name is Lauren, I'm 31, and until last year, I believed my family was the one place I could always rely on. Growing up in Michigan, holidays were huge events in our house. Thanksgiving meant 20 people crowded around a table, football playing in the living room, and my mom insisting everyone eat seconds, even when we were already full. After my dad passed away a few years ago, those gatherings became even more important. They felt like the last piece of normal life we still had. So when I realized I had been removed from the family chat before Thanksgiving, the confusion hit harder than anger. I couldn't think of anything I had done wrong. The first person I texted was my younger brother Chris, because we had always been close. I asked him if there had been a mistake with the group chat. His reply came almost 2 hours later. It said, "Honestly, it might be better if you sit this Thanksgiving out." Just reading those words made my stomach drop. There was no explanation, no reason, just that sentence. So I called my mom. When she answered, I asked her directly why I had been removed from the family chat and told not to come for Thanksgiving. She paused before answering. Then she said something that made even less sense. "We just think it's best if things cool down for a while." I asked what exactly needed to cool down, because as far as I knew, there hadn't been any arguments or problems. But she wouldn't give me a clear answer. She only repeated that some people in the family felt uncomfortable around me lately. That was the moment confusion turned into suspicion, because nothing about that explanation made sense. The next day, I started messaging a few relatives to ask if anyone knew what was going on. Most of them avoided answering completely. A couple responded with vague phrases like, "It's complicated," or "Just give it some time." Finally, my cousin Emily called me privately that evening and said something that explained everything. Apparently, my older sister Natalie had been telling people that I borrowed money from her earlier in the year and never paid it back. According to the story she shared with the family, she helped me when I was struggling financially, and I refused to repay her. The problem with that story was simple. It was completely backwards. 6 months earlier, Natalie had called me crying because she was about to lose her apartment after losing her job. Without thinking twice, I transferred $2,500 to help her cover rent. I never asked for the money back because she was my sister and I trusted her. Now somehow she had turned that story around and convinced everyone that I owed her money instead. The more I thought about it, the more everything started making sense. The strange tension during our last family dinner, the short replies to my messages, the awkward pauses whenever my name came up in conversations. My sister had quietly been spreading a completely different story about me, and apparently the whole family believed it. If you've ever had someone twist the truth about you behind your back, hit the like button right now, because that moment changes the way you see people forever. At first I felt angry, but after a few minutes that anger slowly faded into something else. Calm. Because suddenly I realized something important. Lies move quickly through families, but proof moves even faster. The next morning, I opened my banking app and found the transfer confirmation from 6 months earlier, showing the exact amount I had sent Natalie. Then I searched through our old messages and found the conversation where she asked for help and thanked me repeatedly after I sent the money. Reading those messages made something shift inside me. Instead of confronting her immediately, I decided to wait. Thanksgiving was only 3 days away, and suddenly I realized that might be the perfect moment for the truth to come out. Because if everyone already believed the lie, explaining privately wouldn't change anything. What mattered was when the truth appeared. Timing can change everything. So for the next couple of days, I stayed completely quiet. I didn't send angry texts or try to defend myself. I simply saved screenshots of everything and waited. The day before Thanksgiving, my cousin Emily told me something interesting. Apparently, relatives from out of town were visiting this year, which meant almost 30 people would be at dinner. That's when the plan became obvious. If 30 people believed the same lie, they should all hear the truth at the same time. Thanksgiving afternoon, I drove to my mom's house anyway. The driveway was packed with cars, and the smell of turkey drifted through the cold air. For a moment, I hesitated before walking to the door, but then I reminded myself of something important. I hadn't done anything wrong, so I walked inside. The moment I stepped into the living room, conversation stopped almost instantly. Several relatives looked surprised because they clearly thought I wouldn't show up. My sister Natalie looked the most shocked. She stood up quickly and said, "Lauren, I thought we talked about this." I smiled calmly and said, "We did, but there's something we should clear up first." Everyone in the room suddenly became quiet. My mom tried to change the subject by saying dinner was almost ready, but the tension was already obvious. So I said something simple. "I heard there's been some confusion about money between me and Natalie." Then I asked one question. "Is it true people here were told I borrowed money and refused to pay it back?" Several relatives nodded slowly. My uncle even said he heard that exact story weeks ago. That's when I took out my phone. I connected it to the living room TV using screencasting so everyone could see. First, I showed the bank transfer confirmation from 6 months earlier. It clearly showed $2,500 sent from my account to Natalie's. Then I opened the message conversation where she asked me for help and thanked me for saving her from eviction. The room went completely silent. My cousin leaned closer to read the messages on the screen. My aunt looked from the TV to Natalie with confusion. Finally, someone said quietly, "Wait, that means Lauren gave Natalie money?" Natalie's face turned pale immediately. She tried to explain that it was a misunderstanding, but the messages clearly showed the entire conversation. My mom turned to her and asked one simple question. "Why would you tell everyone the opposite story?" Natalie didn't have a real answer. Watching that moment unfold felt surreal. I didn't yell or accuse anyone. I simply showed the truth. And the truth spoke louder than any argument could have. If you're still watching this story right now, comment the word karma. Because moments like this remind us that lies eventually collapse under their own weight. The rest of the evening felt strange. Several relatives apologized for believing the story without asking my side first. Others looked embarrassed because they ignored my calls earlier that week. Natalie barely spoke during dinner, but the most surprising part was how calm I felt. I didn't feel angry anymore, because revenge didn't mean hurting her. It meant letting the truth appear at the exact moment she least expected it. Later that night, my mom apologized for not asking me directly before deciding I shouldn't come to Thanksgiving. I told her I understood how easy it is to believe something when it comes from someone you trust. But I also told her something important. Trust should never exist without verification. When I left the house that night, the cold air felt strangely refreshing. My cousin Emily followed me outside and said she was glad I showed up, because if I hadn't, the lie probably would have continued spreading. Driving home, I realized something powerful. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. Sometimes it's simply about standing calmly in the middle of a lie and letting the truth expose everything. And honestly, that felt better than any argument ever could. If you made it to the end of this story, Thank you for listening. Now tell me something honestly in the comments. If your family believed a lie about you, would you walk away quietly or show up like I did and let the truth speak for itself?